What's up guys, welcome back to Unreal Dev Hub. In today's Unreal Engine 5 tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to script a headlamp for your character to light up your game's environment. Let's jump in. Alright, let's get started. In our content drawer, we'll create a new blueprint of type actor, and we'll call this BP underscore equipable headlamp. We'll also right click and create a new blueprint interface of type and we'll call this BPI underscore equipable items. So this would be for other things like the headlamp that we could use to communicate with if they're attached to the player. I'll double click into this and I will add a function here. In the right, we'll rename this new function. We'll call this change status of equipped item. I'll save this and I'll exit out. Now let's open up our headlamp. I'll open up and I will add two components. I'll first add I'll add a cylinder and we will scale this to size. So I'm going to rotate this forward like that on the green, and I'm going to change the scale to 0.05, 0.05, 0.05. It's just going to be a little headlamp attached to the head. If you have a character mesh that is better than this, feel free to use that, but let's just start with a cylinder. We're also going to add a spotlight. And if I have cylinder selected, it's automatically going to attach to the spotlight. Let's move it out in space just a little bit, so it's out front of the mesh. And we will change this to candelas, and we'll make this 10 candelas. And I'm going to change the outer cone angle to 35 and the inner cone to 15. We can edit these from here, and I'll actually change my attenuation radius to 1500, and we can feel free to edit these later. So now in my event graph, we're going to add some logic. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our interface. So I'm going to go to my class settings up here. We're going to add our blueprint interface over here. And I'm going to type what we created, which is equip BPI underscore equipable items. When I do that, we'll have access to this interface here. I right click and say implement event. This is the event that we'll call from our player character's pawn. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start with a branch and we're going to create a Boolean. And so I just pressed B and left click, but you can also right click and search for branch. I'm going to pull off here, say promote to variable, and I'll say light is on. If light is on, we're going to turn it off. If light is off, we're going to turn it on. So I'm going to grab our spotlight, pull off here. I'm going to drag off and say set intensity. I'm going to say true. So if it is on, true, that means we're going to turn it off. So we're going to set the intensity to 0. And then we're going to grab set light is on. And we're going to set it to off or false. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to Control C, Control V right here. And we need to figure out how to get our cached intensity. So let's drag off this variable here, this float, and say promote to variable. And I'm going to type cached intensity. That's just down here so you didn't see it, but it's going to appear in your variables panel. And we're going to turn this to light is on equals true. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our light and we're going to grab this right here. And we're going to Control C. And we're going to on event begin play, just deleting that stuff we don't need. We're going to get our spotlight and we'll say get intensity. We're going to grab our cached intensity, drag it out here. We'll say set this value to that. So on event begin play, I'm going to drag this in here, drag this in here, and then we're going to set the light is off. So basically on begin play, we're going to cache our intensity value to use it later down here. We're going to set the light to be 0, and then we're going to say that the light is on is false. This is how we're going to communicate with our headlamp from our character, and we'll add that call in just a moment. So now let's open up our third person character. So I'm going to type character in my content. We're going to use the default third person character. This would also work with the first person character, but in this project I have the third person. So what we're going to do is we're going to select our mesh and we're going to add a child actor that's automatically going to attach it to the mesh. I'm going to go up here where it says parent socket and I'm going to type head. You can see now it's over here, but it's kind of in the head, which is bad. And we don't see anything, but that's because there is no child actor class. So what we're going to do is I'm going to select this right here. I'm going to browse to it here. And then I'm just going to use the gray arrow. I like using the gray arrow. You can also search through here, but sometimes just easier to get it from your content drawer. So let's zero this out. And then we're going to move this forward in that axis. And we're going to position it somewhere that makes sense for us. And we can see that the light is on this side. So we're going to rotate it forward that way. And we'll kind of position it using W and E to move and rotate and switch between those gizmos. And we'll compile that. So compile, save. Now what we're going to do is we're going to type, we're going to use R keyboard. So I'm just going to scroll down into my keyboard events and I'm going to find the R key. We're just going to use that right now for this event. So compile, save. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab our child actor, which we can name our headlamp up here. So I just renamed that. And I'm going to grab my headlamp. I'm going to say get child actor. Then I'm going to pull off and I'm going to use the function that we created before, which is our BPI function. So if we recall, we called that change status of equipped item. So I'm going to pull off here. I'm going to say change status of equipped item. Unpressed. And so basically the reason we're using a blueprint interface is, we could use various types of things that are attached to the player. And using this generic interface allows us not to have to cast specifically to the blueprint headlamp. So if we change that blueprint in the future, or we were to, let's say, use a torch or a weapon in a similar way, we could just communicate to that item telling to turn it on by using this generic blueprint interface call. So what's going to happen is I'm going to press R on my keyboard. It's going to call to the child actor, which is the headlamp we've added. So that's right here. And it's using a blueprint interface. So it's going to say, hey, do you have this function? If it does, which in this case it does, it's going to determine is the light on or is the light off, and act accordingly, changing it and setting either an intensity of 0 or the cached intensity. So let's jump in and check that out. So I'm going to press play and I'm going to press R on my keyboard, and we can see that now when I do that, it is turning on my light on and off. However, we'll notice that it affects our movement, and right now some of that is a little bit screwed up. So what we can do is we can go back to our equipable headlamp, we can grab our cylinder, and we can go into collision. So we'll search collision. We'll notice that for some reason it must be interfering with the capsule. So we're going to turn generate overlap events to off, can character step up on to no, and block all dynamic to no collision. I'm going to compile this and save this, jump back into my map, play from here. And now I can notice that I don't have that same issue and I can move about freely. When I use R on the keyboard, it's going to turn that on and off. And I have the ability to turn this headlamp on and help myself as I navigate this dark environment. That is all for today's tutorial. Hope you learned something new, and stay tuned for more Unreal Engine 5 content and tutorials. Have a great day.